Patreon, patreon.com/GamePodular. Go in there, throw us a couple of dollar dues. Always make sure you are taking care of yourself. You can also shout us money at ko-fi.com/GamePodular. To be going through, we've also been streaming. You can do that. You can view that on twitch.tv/GamePodular. You're currently going still through the Hollow Knight randomizer.
Yep, we finally got the double jump, so that opened up a lot.
Oh, can't say no to double jump. Oh, fantastic! And I've also been going with Hilka through Dispatch. I think it would be wrapping up fairly soon. I dare say the next episode might be the last. I've only got like a couple of chapters to go. But if you don't make it in time, you can view the recorded stream on youtube.com/@GamePodular. If you just want the snippets, you can go to youtube.com/@GamePodular stream highlights. I'll also remind everyone we do have a Discord you can join for the lovely Discord community. All of this information you can view on our website at GamePodular.com. Alrighty, let's be going to get into what we've been playing during this past month.
Let's.
So, dear viewers, I'm actually going to revisit a game that I played on a previous episode. It's specifically GamePodular Unfocused episode 10. I did this with Hilka. Good Afternoon for a Mega Quiz was the name of the actual episode. This was simply it was a Mega Man quiz that Hilka hosted. I think I got quite a few of them right. The majority of them, the questions right.
Mm-hmm.
Go me. And you're
a veritable Mega fan.
Exactly. I do love me some Mega Man. The other game that I played was the Disney Afternoon Collection. I believe I played this on the PC. Mm-hmm. Well, they actually released this finally on Switch. I mean, this was released, I think, back in like 2016 on other systems, and it's taken them
a decade?
I would say so, yeah. Or maybe it's like even 2017. But almost a decade. It got released when the second Switch system.
Yeah, 2017, April of 2017. Yeah, that's ridiculous. Like
that is like, this is the whole thing. Like, they released every after collection they did that, they released for the Switch. Mm-hmm. But you would just think they would go back and really release this. But it's done and dusted now. They've released it on. This is one of the ones they released on Switch and Switch 2. So there are two separate versions. So if you get it on Switch 2, you can't play it on Switch 1. But if you get on Switch for Switch 1, you can play on Switch 2, but I don't think it does like the resolution bump.
Right.
Yeah. But they also did actually throw in a couple of extra games. They actually two Super Nintendo games. They released Goof Troop and Bonkers. Now, I had initially thought that they announced this and they released this for Switch 2, but those two games were going to be released for the other, like the Xbox, PlayStation, PC versions. And so just before this, because it's been leading a little apart since I've played this, like I've been focusing on the other game, which I'll get into later on in the episode. I just thought I'd brush up a bit, but I let it up on my PC, but no, it's actually those two Super Nintendo games are only for Switch.
All right.
Yeah, it's that's it. It's not exactly. I wouldn't say these two. Well, one of them's a classic. The other one is a bit hit or miss. But yeah, because it's the companies you're dealing with are Disney and Capcom, and I mean, if they because this collection is a whole Disney and Capcom collection, so I thought if they released the initial one, they'd be okay releasing the other. It's not as if, there were other developers for these Disney games. It's all just Capcom's.
Yeah, the licensing situation shouldn't be hard.
Yeah. But if you're really wanting to get these games, you can only get them on the Switch system. So the first of the the one I'll start with is Bonkers. This was released, I believe, back in 1994. You play as the cartoon Bobcat Bonkers. Have you ever seen that cartoon?
I've only ever interacted with Bonkers as like a filler clip in retrospectives and things when people talk about the Disney afternoon, Bonkers will show up to fill time.
Yeah.
But I've never watched the show. No.
Yeah, I vaguely remember it. Like, it wasn't huge. It wasn't huge watching for me back in the day. But I do vaguely remember watching it. It's about a police bobcat who is ran like a human partner, police partner, but still all cartoons.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea is that it's supposed to be set in the Disney cartoon universe. So the idea interacting with folks like Donald Duck and Goofy, in the cartoon. And so this game is sort of a continuation, goes on that. You control Bonkers, who must apprehend a thief who has stolen 3 precious treasures from the Toontown's museum. The sorcerer's hat from Fantasia, the mermaid's voice from The Little Mermaid, and the magic lamp from Aladdin. So this is your typical side scroller. I will say it is probably on the easy side.
It's also sounding like dangerously close to a Kingdom Hearts spin-off.
Maybe this is where the Kingdom Hearts came from. Actually, surprising, Bobcat Bonkers hasn't been part of the Kingdom Hearts universe. Knowing this, but yeah. So I would say that the difficulty in this game, they say this was created for the rental market. It's something you go in and you rent a Blockbuster one time, and then take it back the next day.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not fairly straightforward. Your taxes are a bomb that you hurl out. You can upgrade the capacity of the bomb by collecting. There's sort of like little police shields around the place. And if you collect 10 of them, you increase the capacity of your bombs. You've also sort of got a dashing ability. It's more like a start up and run. So you press it, you just continue on until you get hit by an enemy or hit by an obstacle, and that actually charges up for about, say, 10 seconds before you can go again.
Right.
It is it's got that classic Capcom art style, Capcom music score. Very, very, very nice. It's got this cutest things. Like every time you got about 3 stages. So you've got like you got like a mansion, sort of a cruise ship, a sewer, a studio in the Old West, and science fiction sets. It's a couple of funny things with this. When you actually complete like a whole like set of stages, it'll come up with like a newspaper to sort of signify, you've I kept saying Bobcat. Bonkers, who is a Bobcat, has collectors, has defeated, apprehended the thief and gotten this item. And on the other note, it'll be something like, this is taken from the commenter, like from the chief. Like the chief has said this has taken too long. The chief has said that they've had a quiet nap while this is going around. Just sort of humorous, sort of digs at you.
Mm-hmm.
When you complete the stage. Another thing is when you actually lose all your lives, the way you continue is there's an actual character and you actually on a stage, and stage, and the way you continue is that you have to laugh at their jokes. What was Oh, there's one about a vampire. I can't remember at the moment, but it's sort of like, just terrible jokes and you sort of bad puns, but you sort of have to laugh to continue on, or you stay silent to go back to the main menu. So
there was a joke about a vampire, but you most forgot to.
Well, that's something like that. Yeah, that's good actually. So fairly straightforward platformer. I will say, I don't know if you remember, a couple episodes ago, I was talking about the other sort of bobcat, Bubsy.
I was thinking, yes.
Yeah.
How does this compare, would you say?
Okay, so, I mean, Bubsy, more technical, more difficult, somewhat more complicated level design.
Right.
But I will say, in Bonker's defense, I was racing close, and I actually landed into like a water fountain, and Bonkers didn't die. Bonkers doesn't swim, but Bonkers doesn't die from water.
He's not soluble.
That's right. Unlike a certain other bobcat.
Yeah. Unlike famous bobcat Ezio Altair. Sorry, not Ezio, Altair, right? From the first Assassin's Creed. Who would also just like instantly die as soon as he touched water.
Or Claude from GTA 3.
Yeah. Why do you think he's got the hood up? That way people can't see the bobcat ears.
Yeah. So that is Bonkers. It's included with it. Bet say not even an hour to complete it. But the other game that came on the collection is Goof Troop. This is sort of seen as a classic. So the plot is that Goofy and his son Max go out to the ocean for a fishing trip with their neighbors Pete and PJ. Large pirate appears and captures Pete and PJ. And so they go to the island. They get captured to the Spoonerville Island. So the name of the game is that you play as Goofy and or Max to try and save them. Now this is taken top-down Zelda gameplay. No scrolling around, so it's like sort of like each level is its own sort of square. Sort of akin like Link's Awakening or the original Zelda. You've got very basic. Well, you don't really even have attacks. You've got enemies or other parts around. It's more of a sort of an action puzzler sort of game. So the idea is that you got blocks, like hard blocks that you can kick around. You can kick them to an enemy to take them out, or you can actually use it to like solve a puzzle. There'll be ones you gotta kick multiple blocks to get them into a certain position. So you go to left and go down and then up. And you also have an array of items that you use. There's like a hook shot, there's a bell, there's a plank that you use. And it's interesting, this game is actually a 2-player game. I obviously played it single player. And so when I was playing it, you can only hold 2 items at a time. So you'll be like, say you've got like a hook shot and a bell. If you go, might be a section where you got to shovel something. You can have to drop one of those items. But it's more of a puzzle element. So it's like, okay, you've used this item to sort of get in here, then you can go back to the other item to go through. But if you're playing in 2-player, only one character can hold one item and the other one holds the other. So that's sort of you're not holding too many items, but it's sort of a nice dynamic to sort of like to encourage you to work together effectively. Interesting though, I did try it because it's obviously on the Switch too with the Joy-Cons. You can't actually play 2-player with just a single Joy-Cons on its side, even though they got the right amount of buttons.
That's like the whole point of the Joy-Con. Like,
yeah.
It took them a decade to port to these systems, and they didn't include the one thing that the hardware actually does. Oh,
oh goodness. But I mean, I always played single player, but yeah, it was a nice time. Bit more challenging level design. It's okay. Spoiler for like a 30-year-old game. It ends up being that the final boss in the game is Pirate Pete, and they just confused the regular neighbor Pete with the original Pirate Pete from the Disney cartoons.
When you say Pirate Pete, as in like from Steamboat Willie?
Yeah. Oh, not the actual design of Steamboat Willie, but I dare say like the original, like at one stage he was a pirate.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, well, how about that Pete in Kingdom Hearts?
I know there's a Steamboat Willie world, but I don't know if Pirate Pete, he probably shows up. They have to fill those games with something.
They will eventually have to. One thing about this game that I just realized is that one of the designers of this was Shinji Mikami.
Ooh, yeah. That's
yeah.
For those who don't know, that's the lead director of like a bunch of famous games you've heard of, like Resident Evil.
Exactly. So yeah, I had a good time with this. I'm surprised they didn't actually release it even as like DLC for the other consoles. But I mean, if you really want to play Goof Troop and Bonkers, if you want to play this, you'll have to get it on Switch or Switch 2. So yeah, if you do, give it a go. Now, going from something, light and entertaining, like something you sit down for your afternoon collection, to something you might play on the afternoon, but got a bit of a different tone. You've been playing some Bloodborne. How has that gone for you?
Very bloody, would you believe? Extremely sanguine. Much hemoglobin. But no, it's been going very well. By which I mean I beat it a few weeks ago.
Yes.
Yeah. Took me a long time to get around to it, though. It took me about as long to play Bloodborne as it took Disney and Capcom to port that collection to the Switch. Because, famously, of course, this is the one and only big FromSoft, like, Soulsborne game that is console only, specifically PlayStation only. Like, if you have PS4, you can play it. If you have PS5, you can play it. That's about it. And I sort of like my last console at time of recording was the Switch, but outside of that, I hadn't had a console since like the Wii. And I got nothing against PlayStation as a brand, but I just never got around to owning a Bloodborne compatible console. So it took me a very long time to get around to it. I finally borrowed the PlayStation 4 from our podcast colleague Hyuka and got this set up and working. And all right, and I'm going to start with just the immediate obvious praise. I love the aesthetic. The aesthetic of Bloodborne is so powerful and so distinct right away. It's, like it's a very strong vision of like Victorian era Monster Hunter a la, like, say, the Hugh Jackman Van Helsing movie.
Yes.
But then, like, thoroughly soaked in Lovecraft overnight. It's dark, gothic, it's hyper gothic, really, in a way that, like, most of Dark Souls actually isn't. Like, Dark Souls will have, like, an area that goes hard with, like, cathedral spires and gargoyles and things. And then we sort of move on into a different biome. This really commits to it. That has both ups and downs. The ups is they get to iterate on it, try a bunch of different things with it, but it's still unified. It's a beautiful vista every time. The downside is there is one area where it really suffers. There's an area called the Forbidden Woods, and I'm just going to say it. The Forbidden Woods are the worst section in Bloodborne because we take away all of the gorgeous, astonishing, hyper-Gothic architecture and replace them with spooky, dark woods. And they are dark and spooky.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also enormous. And because this game doesn't do as many different biomes and aesthetics as your average FromSoft, it becomes hard to tell it apart after a while. You get so deep in that you just ask yourself, wait, last time I was here, okay, there was the big bush, no, the two big bushes, and then there was the third gravestone, and then I take a left, I think, and it just, I went through that zone 7 times, and every time I found things I hadn't found before. Normally, when I say that kind of thing about a game, it's a compliment of, there's so much content. In this case, I'm not convinced it was so much content. I think it's just, it's not as well, the amount of conveyance going on is not as high as in the rest of the game. It's a noticeable little slump in the conveyance. So in that little part, sort of navigationally, a bit of a minus. How's the actual gameplay? Mostly really, really good, actually. This is famously the game where FromSoft's games sped up quite a bit. You play Dark Souls 1 and 2 nowadays, and they feel, good to play, but comparatively quite slow. A lot of the boss fights almost have, a turn-based rhythm to them. The boss that's the move, you act accordingly, then it's your turn, and you go back and forth.
Yeah.
Bloodborne is where they started putting the pedal to the metal and started asking the player to take some initiative. And mostly, I really like that. It forces the player into a very sort of Doom Eternal mindset of be ruthless but efficient.
Yes.
And that is very fun to play. That's a style that's... You can do that, and it is sort of asked of you a little bit in Dark Souls 3 and in Elden Ring as well, but Bloodborne really overwhelmingly commits to it, because famously, of course, they got rid of shields. Well, mostly. There's one insert, if you're a FromSoft fan, you know the joke, shields are nice, but not if they engender pacifism, is I think the phrasing that they used. Instead, this game gives you a gun. I love the gun. It's not actually a very good ranged weapon. Even the ones that claim to be are surprisingly terrible at it, actually. But I love them because they're a mechanic for countering and parrying that feels a lot nicer to me than doing that with shields ever did in the other FromSoft games. I've done my fair share of parrying in the other FromSoft games. You can get good at it. None of it feels as quick, clean, and intuitive as the gun. And also the fact that the gun can do it at sort of a distance is a big blessing. If my opponent is attacking me and rushing towards me, I can counter that with the gun when they're right in my face or when they're still 6 feet away from me. Either one of those is valid. Whereas if I'm actually parrying with a buckler or something, I have to wait until they're in my face. I really appreciated that. It was a good feeling. So I like the guns. In general, there are fewer weapons in this game than there are in every other FromSoft game except for Sekiro. And some people mind that. This game sort of shrunk the FromSoft experience. It sort of nailed down a particular version of it. Not a lot of weapons, almost no magic, and it's defensive strategies are out the window. It's a very specific flavor, which might be why they originally went with a console only release. Maybe they were worried this wouldn't have a wide enough appeal to warrant going multi-system. That's speculation on my part. Luckily for me, I really like this particular flavor. I think it worked very well. It's, a little bit of an uphill battle when you start playing, because this game starts harder than almost any other. Like, it's sort of a toss-up as to whether this is the hardest start of any FromSoft game. It's like either this or Sekiro. But once you get into the rhythm, I actually did not have a lot of problems with it. That said, I'm talking about this, with the benefit of having already played Sekiro and Elden Ring and Dark Souls 3. Yeah. And if you've played those games first, then, like, Bloodborne feels faster than Dark Souls 1 and 2, yeah, and it probably does feel harder than Dark Souls 1 or 2. But I wouldn't actually say that it felt hard for, like, 99% of it. I felt challenged and engaged because of the, like, you do have to go Doom Eternal mode on everybody. Yeah. But the only time that I felt something exhilaratingly difficult and challenging where I really had to, like, lock the hell in and was, at the edge of my seat was at the very tail end of the DLC. And I'm glad it got there. I'm glad they sort of were able to reach that crest. And I think the way they sort of gently incorporated more of that kind of thing going forward after this with, like, very hard secret bosses and things like that, I think it goes to show that FromSoft also liked what they found there. But yeah, this game, if you're the kind of person who really, really likes, things like Dark Intermediate in Dark Souls 3 or Millennia in Elden Ring, this game actually only has very little of that, and it's hidden quite deeply. But what is there is really, really good. There was actually also only one, like, non-boss encounter that I really struggled with. This is, again, very late in the DLC. There's one encounter where it was the only one that felt mean. And, like, usually Dark Souls isn't actually mean. It's challenging, but it wants you to beat it. But sometimes there's, like, one or two encounters that are very mean. But usually if they're mean, it's because it's in, like, there's meant to be a joke there. It's like, oh, I just got absolutely floored by this thing at the bottom of a, like, deep, dark, dangerous pit. The joke being the thing that floored me in one hit is a very derpy-looking mushroom man. In this case, it was, like, an insanely mean, insanely hard encounter that took me, like, 15 tries or something before I finally got it, which was by far and away the most. And then I was like, well, the reward for this better be pretty darn good. Yes. You get the weapon that the previous boss fight, the previous boss was holding, which is, like, a flaming blood double katana. Yes, okay, that is a good reward. Thank you. I will accept that. When I say, by the way, that this game is like Van Helsing-y, but with, soaked in Lovecraft overnight. I'm not just talking about purely aesthetics. Like, this game is actually one of the bigger, better interpretations of Lovecraft's writing that I have seen. Like, it really commits very strongly to the idea that there is absolutely such a thing as knowing too much for your own good. And most of the terrible things that happen to this world are because people got curious about things they really should have known to just not mess with. Like, this game is Let Sleeping Dragons Lie, the game. Except instead of dragons, it's eldritch abominations that can't make up their minds if they want to be brains or eyeballs, so they end up being both. It's a very gross aesthetic, but compellingly gross. Like, everything is gnarly and upsetting. And I personally really dig that. Although, speaking of digging, point I do need to address here. If you've played Bloodborne, you know what a chalice dungeon is. If you haven't, I need to explain it real quick. Chalice dungeons are extremely optional dungeons. Like, you never, ever, ever have to go into them for the plot at all, I don't think. Mm-hmm. They take some materials in order to sort of unlock over time, and then as you get deeper and deeper, they could be a way of getting powerful like upgrade materials for your weapons and things like that. They're very much worth doing to sort of level yourself up and keep yourself powerful, but they are super optional. They are also like 55% of the actual game content. Like, I swear there is more Chalice Dungeon than there is actual base game. Hell, even base game plus DLC isn't actually as big as all the Chalice Dungeons. And while the Chalice Dungeons are mostly good, because there is so much of them, in aggregate, they do get repetitive and kind of dull, because there's only like 3.5 aesthetics across all of them. And it just repeats and repeats and repeats and repeats. And even the bosses that you fight in there are mostly just bosses from the base game. If you really, really commit to it, there are a tiny handful of unique bosses super late in the Chalice Dungeons.
Would you say they're kind of akin to, say, the Doom Eternal's Slayer Gates?
It's sort of like that's not a bad comparison, but the except for the part where there is an actual dungeon before the boss fight still. Like, you know, the Slayer Gates are fun, but it's one big fight and then you're done.
Okay.
Here it's sort of like it's closer to the catacombs in Elden Ring, the little optional dungeons scattered all over the world map for Elden Ring. I really like the catacombs, and a big part of that is that they were not explicitly just a one after the other series of like continuous dungeons, because in case it isn't clear, a single Chalice dungeon is always at a minimum 3 floors deep with at least 3 boss fights, and each floor requires you to like find a switch to unlock a gate before you can even get to the boss fight. So there's a lot of dungeoneering that goes into just a single chalice. Yeah. I wasn't even trying to find and get all of the chalices, and I gave up on doing all of them before finishing the game, because, like I said, that would literally be most of my playtime, and I would get bored. But in just my time with the game, I found 14 different chalices. So, minimum of 3 floors each. That's 42 layers, at least.
Whoa.
Some of them go up to 6 layers individually. So that's a lot. That's a lot. And in Elden Ring, that goes down smoothly because it's very finely like peppered all over a giant world map. So you do one and you move on. You do one and you move on. And they're a fun little reward for exploration. Here, it's just like, hey, do you feel like doing this for the next hour? And like I said, it's, you know, worth doing, it's rewarding, and there is a tiny, tiny little bit of unique content at the very bottom if you go looking. But it's a long walk getting there, and there is some stuff in there that gets very hard as well, because most of the boss fights recycle boss fights from the base game, but at varying levels of difficulty. And some of the dungeons eventually get difficulty modifiers. The particularly infamous one being the one that just cuts your maximum HP in half, and there is just nothing you can do about that. So most of the bosses suddenly become like one-hit kill situations. A lot of people don't bother finishing the Chalice dungeons, and I don't really blame them. I would strongly recommend, if you want to do all of the Chalice dungeons, do as much as you feel comfortable with on your first playthrough, and save the like very tail end of it. Save that for New Game Plus. Like, you will save yourself a lot of frustration if you save it for New Game Plus.
Yeah.
I do love the ferocity and the grossness and the intensity of Bloodborne. I really do. It does have a couple odd quirks. Like, it's got... Like, FromSoft games tend to have a lot of NPCs, but this game has particularly not a lot. Like, most NPCs in the game, you will actually not even meet in person unless you go and do a side quest for them first, or remember where they are and go back to them later once you have some information to tell them. Because most of the NPCs you meet are initially indoors, like stuck behind a door or a window because they're trying not to get killed. I should probably actually briefly talk about the plot of this game for those of you who haven't played it, which, given that it's console exclusive, is probably a lot. There's a thing called the Hunter's Night, where it is the full moon, the werewolves come out, except it seems to be more than one night, and it's more than just werewolves. It's all sorts of horrid monsters, zombies, abominations, things with tentacles where tentacles shouldn't be. It's a bad time. And so there are hunters who do their best to slay these beasts and end the night, and you are one of those hunters. The vibe is immaculate. The actual story is a little slight by FromSoft standards. Like, the player character is usually not, a super interesting character in FromSoft games, except for in Sekiro, where, like, the whole game is about the character of Wolf. But usually the player character is, intentionally a little bit of a blank slate. You come in at the very tail end of a much bigger story to sort of close the curtain. But at least, you get to do and participate in really big things involving really big people. There is really cool vibes and world building in Bloodborne, but I felt less involved in the actual story because it just felt like there was less story to be involved in. It's like, it's the Hunter's Night, and you're a hunter, and you can be thorough in your research about the night. You can, learn a lot of things about it, but it's mostly just a matter of fight bigger and bigger beasts until you fight the biggest beast, and then you're told, all right, the night is done. And at that point, you do have a choice. This game does have multiple endings, like most every FromSoft game does. And I do like most of the endings. It's a little strange that by far and away the best ending for everyone involved is also the easiest one to get. That's an interesting subversion, but I like how it sort of thematically resonates with the rest of the game. Because I mentioned earlier, like, this whole game is people who should know not to look into the thing that will drive them insane, and then looking at the thing anyway, and it drives them insane. The super easy ending that's actually the best for everyone is you learning that lesson and letting go and not digging deeper. Whereas the other endings are harder and, arguably cooler and feature, bonus boss fights and things, but they are also you explicitly saying, I'll have me some of that. Like, if you couldn't handle the great cosmic horrors of the unknown, that's a skill issue. Hold my beer. And I like that there's a thematic message in there of maybe don't do that, actually. Like, you can, and if you're good enough at it, we won't stop you, but it's probably better that you don't, just saying. On the whole, I'm super, super glad I finally played it. It is genuinely a fantastic game. If you are in my position of, you love FromSoft games, but you've never played this because it's PlayStation exclusive, I would say temper your expectations just a tiny bit, because they did, keep iterating after this. They did keep refining after this. Bloodborne is an excellent, excellent game, but it feels sort of limited and constrained in some ways. And also, I need to acknowledge that I am speaking from a little bit of a position of privilege. Like, a very controversial part of this game was the decision to do away with things like the Estus Flask. Like, a limited healing resource that does automatically and infinitely refill every time you're at a bonfire. Instead, we now have blood vials, which are like, you can get those off of enemy corpses, you can find them in treasure chests, like they are replenishable in a way that makes it easier to keep making progress. You're not checkpointing yourself as much. But you can also run out. Like, just actually run out. And you need to go farming for them. And I'm lucky enough that I'm good enough at the game. I didn't really need to do that very much. I think I farmed for blood vials like 3 or 4 times total. And I think I've farmed for Quicksilver bullets, which is has a similar situation. You need those for your gun to work, but they're also finite. I think I farmed for those like 2 or 3 times as well. I know people who have spent hours of their lives farming for blood vials because the game can get really hard in places, and it is frankly not a very enjoyable experience to have to stop trying the boss fight that you really want to do because you need to go kill a bunch of, low-level goobers so you can get enough healing items to try the boss fight.
Okay.
That part's not great. And also, I'm just going to say, there is one thing that drove me up the wall with this game. This game has the worst fast travel of any FromSoft game I've ever played.
Okay.
Because there is only one place in the entire game that lets you fast travel, and every other fast travel point takes you back there. It's the Hunter's Dream, which is sort of your hub. It's where you do your weapon upgrades, your leveling, etc. I get that. They've sort of done structures like that before, like in Dark Souls 2 and whatnot. But in Dark Souls 2, you can go from every bonfire to every other bonfire. In Bloodborne, the lamps, which are its equivalent of bonfires, lamps only let you go back to the Hunter's Dream, and then from the Hunter's Dream you go elsewhere.
Oh.
And so everything has at least 2 loading screens, whereas in every other game it's 1 loading screen. And also, we're stuck on a console, so we don't have the faster loading times you'd have on PC. It adds up. It adds up quite a bit, and it means if you get your destination wrong, if you don't quite remember, because there aren't visual previews of what each area looks like when you select your fast travel, you just need to remember which name corresponds to which lamp. If you get it wrong, that's 4 loading screens you have to go through to get to where you want to be. It's rough, and I really don't understand why they decided that was the structure for this game. Like, I thought maybe, was this like a hardware limitation at the time? But then I remember, wait, no, Dark Souls 2 let you go from anywhere to anywhere, and that was before this. So if we ever do get a Bloodborne remaster, by which I mean, hey, FromSoft, please let us please give us a Bloodborne remaster. Maybe get Bluepoint back on that. Rip Bluepoint.
Yeah.
If we ever get one, that is like the number one gameplay change I would want to see. Like, a lot of Bloodborne's decisions and design choices are controversial, but I respect them, and I don't think they need changing. Like, maybe add an alternative mode for the people who want it. Like, if they want to add something like Estus so that people don't need to farm for blood vials, you go for it. The one thing I think is just an objectively superior alternative is, please just let us fast travel from lamp to lamp. It would save so much time.
Yeah.
That all having been said, it's a great time. It's a great mood. I'm so glad I finally played it. There really isn't anyone else who does Soulsborne games quite like FromSoft. Nobody else quite has that je ne sais quoi. And the amount of times where I said to myself, oh, that's nasty, and then the thing I'm looking at turns out to have been facing away from me and turns around, and I thought I had been looking at a face, and the real face is so much worse, and I go, oh, that nasty! Like, I adore that experience. This game is fantastic. It's not perfect, but it's fantastic. Give it a go.
Great. I think I've told this story in the past. I did get Bloodborne day one, but I got it on obviously on PS4. I played it because it's the first time playing like an actual Soulsborne game. I understood it was going to be, it's unique, it's somewhat difficult for new people, but playing around with it, sort of understanding the mechanics, I did not end up beating the Cleric Beast, first boss. So I had all these, they're not souls in Bloodborne, but it's like the souls.
Yeah, Blood Echoes. Yeah.
Blood Echoes, yeah. And then, but I just foolishly, I was high up, I've done this, I've beaten this boss, and then I go around, and then I immediately face Father Gascoigne,
yeah.
Gascoigne, yes. And I got demolished. I didn't lose, like it sort of kept the blood things in the actual section there where I died. And then I tried to do it again. And before I can collect it, the father destroyed me again, and that's when I went, you know what? No, I'm not dealing with this at the moment. So I ended up getting the next day, trading it in, and swapping it for Xenoblade Chronicles 3D for 3DS.
Which, to be fair, also a very good game.
Oh, it's a very good game. But I mean, now saying that, now I have beaten the first Dark Souls. Honestly, I'm probably going to end up, when it gets out on Switch, I'm going to get Elden Ring. Take my time with it. But if they were to do like a Bloodborne remaster, I probably would try and give it a go again. So, yeah.
I find it funny that you and Hyuka had the exact same experience of, the Cleric Beast wasn't that bad. I had heard that was actually really hard. Hooray. And then Father Gascoigne becomes this big obstacle. It's like trauma bonding, I think is the word.
Yeah. That was actually like, for me, like actually Dark Souls, the second sort of big boss, the one on the up top of the tower. When the first time that destroyed me, and then when I actually played it on Switch, I managed to get past them because they fell off.
Yep, he can fall off.
He fell down, and from there, I just thought, you know what, I'm gonna take this. I asked, can I take this in a win? Everyone said yes. It's Dark Souls. You do whatever you can to survive. I ended up finishing game, and then what I did, I ended up starting a new game, going back up to the boss, and then beating that boss fair and square.
I once actually fought that particular boss, and we both fell off. Like, he ran off and pushed me with him. We both died. Yeah. And it still counted as me beating him.
Nice. Well, speaking of games that have got that sort of spooky atmosphere, I have actually been playing the somewhat latest Resident Evil games. They released the latest one for all systems, Resident Evil Requiem, and what they did for Switch. What they did for Switch 2, they actually had it because they released 7 and 8 there, and they actually had a combined rate for all 3 games. Ooh. So I'd never actually. It's funny enough, I've got them on PC, but I've never actually played them. So I thought, may as well buy them because like about $130. Normally, I think it's like about $100 for Requiem by itself. So, I mean, that's a pretty good deal spread across those 3 games. So yeah, I've just been playing now Resident Evil Requiem, but I did end up playing 7 and 8. First off, I just wanted to do it right. Love those games. Like, the first time I had played Resident Evil 7. It was a demo, and I played it on, finding out, PlayStation VR for the PlayStation 4.
Ooh, yeah, I did. Like, I remember it winning a bunch of VR-related awards that year.
Yeah. Like, it was specifically designed to run on VR. But no, I love Resident Evil 7. It takes it back to the sort of the first Resident Evil game, sort of not more action based, sort of horror, legitimately horror based. Goodness, Ethan Winters, the protagonist. Mm-hmm. He gets chopped up a lot. The poor sod.
That man's poor hands.
Hands poor, legs poor, arms poor, just everything. He's just been through a blender, and yet he picks himself up, reattaches, puts some medicine on it, and bam, he gets back up again.
His hands take more abuse than those of a one-eyed carpenter.
But no, the atmosphere in Resident Evil 7 with the Baker household, just with it's very much a more subtle, I wouldn't say small, like it's a huge, like big presentation, but sort of like a smaller condensed game. Mm-hmm. Fewer enemies, more focus on the actual Baker family. I loved it. Now, I will say the actual, because it's got 2 DLC sets. There's one where you play as Chris Redfield, just going back there and having to deal with one of the last of the family members. And then the second one, I don't remember. It was the Father Baker's brother.
Yeah, I've heard about this one. Yes, I think it's called Daughters. Yeah, and you play as like the forgotten uncle of the family.
Yeah, and his main weapon, his fists. It is just punching all the way, punching zombies, punching spiders, punching crocodiles. Actually, not true. Crocodiles, you have to actually create spears and throw it at them. Mm-hmm. But you don't get any like guns or ammunition. There is one weapon you get, because have you played this or?
I haven't played it, but I watched somebody else play it. Yeah, there is one weapon that you get, and I can't decide if I love it because it's glorious or if it's just like a complete reversal of the tone of the actual game. But would you like to tell the people at home?
You get I like to say the power glove.
Yep.
It's a mechanical glove you put on that supercharges your punching ability.
We are not kidding, folks.
The thing is, yes, it's a tonal shift from Resident Evil 7, but it still falls in line within the Resident Evil continuity. It's sort of that goofiness that it can portray.
True. This isn't the first time that we've had famously silly punching in a Resident Evil game.
Yes.
Press X to punch the boulder.
Yes, no boulders in this though. That would have sweetened the deal. But because I feel like because it is DLC, it is not taking itself seriously. It's just DLC having some fun. So that's Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil 8, more action focused, where you go to pretty much like sort of like a not retelling, but sort of like sort of very heavily based on Resident Evil 4, going into Eastern European village, sort of monsters everywhere, more action weapon focused. Still got elements of like trying to hide away, trying to run away from enemies, but sort of being able to sort of like towards the end of it, sort of building yourself and just like having so many weapons to sort of deal with enemies. Like sort of like the final boss ended up just getting like I had my magnum, and just blasting them. Oh no, it's not Magnum and the actual grenade launcher, because it's just hoarding all that.
Yep.
But that was more tonal. Not sure about the tonal shift with that. Ethan just gets absolutely chopped up in that game. But it is more noticeable characters, like sort of more fantastical characters, like Lady Tiramisu, if I'm pronouncing
Dimitrescu,
that.
I think.
Dimitrescu.
Yeah.
Yes, and Heisenberg. It's just a really, really fun time with that one. But the one I've been playing at the moment now is Resident Evil 9. This is sort of trying to sort of be more like a hybrid of all Resident Evils, I would say. You start off the game, you play as let's see, let me have a check here. Claire Ashcroft. She's a FBI agent. And DSO agent Leon, my first name, Kennedy. So this is very much because the Resident 7 and 8 they were first person. Although in Resident Evil I did end up putting like a third person mode. And in the DLC, you actually do play as Ethan Winter's daughter, and that's all in third person. In this game, however, you get a choice in between first and third. And the game sort of prioritizes that, it's preferable to Grace's store like gameplay in first person and Leon's in third person, like Resident Evil 4. I'm going to be real.
Interesting that they sort of split that down character lines, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, but I am the weirdo who actually is playing Leon in first person.
But then how can you see his handsome face?
Oh, you still see his handsome face. Let me get there are still cutscenes, and when you go ahead to do a melee attack, it pans out. You see the melee attack, so I'm not missing anything.
Excellent.
Excellent. Yes.
We worked hard sculpting that face. Dang it.
Yeah. Look, I'm gonna be on like the whole the complete tonal shifts with these two characters. Like Grace is sort of she's a very timid, introverted character. And you see that because like her thing is that she does have a pistol, but sort of like that's her own main weapon. Yeah. The idea with Grace is that you're supposed to be hiding around everywhere and only attacking zombies when you need to. Try and use as much not use as much resources as you can. Like try and save up on your bullets. Like you've got empty bottles that you can throw around to sort of get an enemy to go to that place to sort of confuse them. It's interesting with this game with the zombies themselves, because they are zombies. The zombies in the first section, because the first section is in a hospital, and the zombies are sort of stuck in their own routine. So you've got one that's like a chef. He's going around, he's just getting really annoyed that he's not making the right meal. Like when he's not interacting with you. I mean, if he sees you, he'll come at you. You'll get cleaners who are constantly cleaning a spot. You'll get one waiter who doesn't like the light. So if you turn the light switch on, they will come in like still zombified, but turn the light switch off. You got ones that are sort of they sing, because they were in there like the it's sort of like a hospital that sort of had like its own bar, its own gaming room. Yeah. So you got these ones that sort of like there were singers in there, and they actually their singing actually can throw you off because it's such a loud pitch. So I just love that. But no, she's you can upgrade her abilities with so you have with the sort of items that you make. Now, in the Resident Evil 7 and 8, Resident Evil 8, you do craft items. So the idea is that you get like you'll get gunpowder and like rusted steel to make handgun bullets, or like mixing up herbs to create like a bigger herb.
Yeah, and,
that
and
sort of
that's
thing.
very classic Resident Evil. They've been like
Yeah. Yeah.
they've had you craft your own ammo since like Resident Evil 3.
Exactly. This game takes it to a different way. You get sort of a blood collector, and the idea is that when you down an enemy or you see pools of blood, you can go ahead, you can collect blood, a certain amount of blood, and the idea is that you use that to craft items. So, say you want to get handgun bullets, you get what's called a scrap. That's what's called scrap, and you combine that with blood to make bullets.
Are you sure we didn't get our notes mixed up for the games we're covering? Because using your own blood to make bullets is also literally a mechanic in Bloodborne.
Oh, nice. No, I kid you not. If you do want to create like a actual like a sort of medical injection, you get a herb and you get blood. It's wild. It's just, but it's a very interesting mechanic. It really works well, but it's sort of like it focuses you to sort of, okay, if I down an enemy, I can collect that blood and I can use that to create other items.
Mm-hmm.
So that's sort of Grace's gameplay. You sort of try to hold to yourself. She even like when you're holding the weapon, she shakes, and her mannerisms. She's very scared.
She's out of her depth. Yeah,
exactly. Like you sound like like a Jill Valentine or Claire Redfield or Leon or Chris. Just sort of they're in the element because they are police officers or military people. Like Grace is still an FBI agent, but she's sort of like more administration. So it's just a really interesting character development. And I love that. And I will say one thing with this game, it sort of does show off a lot of sweat. People get sweaty in this game. You see it.
And I know for a fact for some of our audience, that's going to be a plus. And for some of them, it's going to be a minus. Yeah.
Take it what you will. But then you get into sort of the way it works is sort of a catch-up game. Say you're playing your Claire and then she gets captured or something happens. Then you go into Leon, who's sort of like chasing up with her. And when you're Leon, you got the full arsenal. Like you're collecting weapons, you're collecting ammunition, you're getting. It's funny actually. One thing like you play Grace. You get in the hospital, you get captured, and then you play that Leon in the exact same hospital. But all those enemies, they sort of like, I don't know, like those big enemies, you can take them on in this. Like you just get shotgun blasts. It's still limited. You still have to watch yourself. You're not just mowing down everything. You still have to be strategic, but more since like Resident Evil 4. Right. Like you can sort of work it around. Like you get handgun bullets. You take 2 shots at an enemy. They'll go into a state where you can melee attack them. You melee attack them, and then you've also got an axe. And this axe is used anything. You use it to open doors, but you also use it to sort of down enemies. So to sort of like the final blow. Actually, there's one enemy. Like in the original Resident Evil, the Resident Evil HD, when you didn't actually down completely burn a zombie, that would come back as a crimson zombie. This has got this has got a similar mechanic where some of the zombies, not all, do come back as blister zombies, and they are very amped up. So you sort of have to watch yourself if you're doing it with Grace, because you sort of have to watch around them. You actually have to make a sort of like you have to construct like a sort of medicine that you get them into down state. You inject the medicine, they then explode. So it takes up your resources. So you have to be strategic about that. With Leon, you sort of get them down into a state, get them down, and then you just get the hatch and just whack it in the head, and they go down.
Nice.
It is nice. It's you've got some really big enemies like with the little lady from big lady from Resident Evil 8, who's just going around the place is sort of like an invincible boss until they get into a section. You got these. You've also got these in Requiem. But I dare say they're just really like, you get these like really big, huge, fat guy. And he literally just cannot step through the door. It's so like, obviously it's tragic, but it's so interesting to see. Just they cannot get through. And there's another enemy you've probably seen around. It's like a huge, big, creepy woman. They cannot get into anywhere that's got a light. That's another thing I'll say. The sound design, like I'm very surprised of how good the surrounds. Like I'm just playing with some a wireless headset on Switch 2. The directions from the actual sound, you can actually tell when something is in front or behind you in the distance.
I remember that being like more in 7 than in 8, but in 7 especially, yeah, it was. I was frankly kind of mad a lot of the time because like some of the sounds include like insect noises, and like the place in 7 is filthy and disgusting, and so there's a lot of fly buzzing. And I like on at least one occasion I distinctly remember having a visceral "there is a mosquito near my ear, I need to move my head now" reflex. Which turned out to be because there was a fly in the game. And like I smacked myself into my own microphone while I was playing. It was
oh no. So yeah, I'm currently playing it now. I will say I'm near the end, I think. But I will say there are actually, like when you're playing the game, that you play Grace for a little bit, then you play as Leon, but then you'll get like a huge section when you're Grace and then a huge section when you're Leon. And sort of like after you play as Leon, just pumping around, just smashing everything, downing enemies, hitting with the axe. Just do that, and then to just go back into Grace. Like you understand why it is, but to just go back to Grace, it's sort of a little bit of an adjustment to sort of get to. It's like, I've had all my abilities are gone, but I'm about to play. I am enjoying myself with this game. Like it's actually surprising. Like because I'm playing on Switch 2, Resident Evil 7 runs great on both docked and handheld. Resident Evil 8, it's got somewhat frame rate issues. Most of the time it's 60 frames per second if you're like in indoor situations, but if you're outside, I dare say the frame rate dips more when you're in handheld than in docked. The problem is that they don't seem to have variable refresh rate in Resident Evil 8. So it's sort of an issue regardless of which one you do, but I'd say probably more preferable because the less frame rate dips in 8 on docked. Resident Evil 9, however, there are, even when you're indoors, there are somewhat frame rate dips, but oh my goodness, variable refresh rate on that handheld works a treat.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, you will get some sections like the frame rate just goes under and you will see those dips. But for most of the time, it's just not smooth, but it's just like it's sort of a gradual reduction in frame rate. It's sort of gradual, not hitching. And so it's just surprising. Like, obviously with Steam Decks and that, we've been sort of used to, how good games can run. But this is look, I don't hate to say, but it's a AAA game released day one on a handheld system. And it runs and looks great.
What a time to be alive.
Well, that's it. Oh, actually, I'm really surprised it hasn't actually released on Apple devices yet, because that's one of the big things with Apple is that you got all the Resident Evil games. They pumped that up and they released like older games when they did those, like Resident Evil 8. It was like a couple of years old. But I would have thought like Resident Evil Requiem, if Switch is getting day one release, I would have thought like the latest Apple devices like trounce the Switch, the really expensive ones though. But yeah, it hasn't been released yet, but maybe in the future. Yeah. But I am. Yes.
I have one question about Resident Evil 9 because there was a strangely precise pattern that I noticed between 7 and 8, where like both of them start super strong. Like the first chapter of both of those games is just like amazing because in 7 it's like Jack, and in 8 it's Lady Dimitrescu. And Then it's like the rest of the game, maybe not quite as good as that initial blow, but okay, put your best foot forward. And then there's this big, kinda awkward, like, exposition dump at around the 3/4 mark in the story, where we have to tie it back in with the rest of the series no matter what. Like,
Yep.
in 7, that's where, like, you find out, oh, this is actually related to Umbrella somehow. And in 8, this is the chapter where you play as Chris Redfield. I personally did not much care for those. Is there anything like that in 9, where it's like, we need to stop what we're doing so we could tie it into the lore somehow?
I mean, from the get-go, I believe it's sort of known that obviously Umbrella is sort of around this. And I will say, in regards to Resident Evil 8, with the Chris Redfield situation, I think they sort of solved that because you're actually playing Claire and Leon. Oh, not Claire, Grace and Leon. So you're not it's not sort of thrown at you. It's like, oh, here's a completely different game. Like, you're sort of gradual, that's what it is. That those are the two options. It's not just some throwing some random scenario to sort of go through and then go back into ether. It's not. I don't think it's like that.
Okay.
I don't want to get spoilers, but you'll sort of, when you get to later stages, you understand, like, big surprise, like not surprise, but sort of like nostalgia. Like, you'll understand where this is going. So I won't say, I don't say like the last quarter.
Right.
Like, if it is like a big expedition dump, like, I haven't noticed it much yet. I dare say probably one's coming on, but yeah, I did nothing. Nothing in regards to, say, like Resident Evil 8.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But I'm just having fun. I'm hopefully, once we do this, I'll hopefully go in and probably finish it tonight.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, and then I'm kind of curious. I kind of got what I actually did. I ended up with Resident Evil 8. I actually started again. I got like an item that has a machine gun that's like infinite ammo. So I've been playing through that again. So I stopped that to play Resident Evil 9. I'm wondering if once I finish this, if I go back to 8 or 9. So yeah, I will. We shall see. We shall see. We shall see. Now, going from something first person, just quite a bit like still dreary but very colorful, for something a bit less colorful. You've been playing some Return of the Obra Dinn. I think I probably got that pronounced wrong again.
What are you talking about? Less colorful? It's got a whole 2 colors if you count white as a color. Yes, I've been playing Return of the Obra Dinn and having a wonderful, wonderful time with it. For those unfamiliar, this is by Lucas Pope, same guy who made Papers, Please, albeit in a completely different genre. Yep. It's a first-person puzzle-solving detective game, I would call it, set in the year 1807. You play as a investigator for the British East India Company, and you're assigned to investigate the Obra Dinn, which is a ship that went missing like 2 years ago and has just like been spotted floating offshore, or off the coast rather. And you're sent in to see what's up, find out what happened. And as part of that, you get a magical pocket watch called the Memento Mortem, which lets you see the moment of, like, if you find a corpse of some kind, you can revisit the moment where people died.
Oh.
So, yeah, you see a skeleton, and you're like, okay, what happened? And the first scene of the game is the captain of the ship shooting somebody right in the throat. And you're okay, all right, need to find out what happened. Because, yeah, you're supposed to assess, did anybody survive? How did everybody die? Who exactly were these people? And, ostensibly you're doing that for literally insurance purposes. You're supposed to find out, like, Do we need to compensate anybody for these people? But that's just sort of like the setup. The actual story is very good at drawing you in of itself, because I just mentioned, like, the first scene is the captain shooting somebody in the throat. That's all you're getting from me in terms of the story. I very, very, very highly recommend, if you have not played this game, go play it, one, and for two, play it unspoiled. Don't let anybody tell you what to do, because this game is... It has some really good sucker punches lined up in terms of surprising you, because with that setup, with that framework of the memento mortem, let's see how this person died, the game always locks you into a certain point of view. Like, so it's sort of like, okay, here's the corpse, let's load in how they died. You always start with a certain view, and there's so many times where you just look up and you go, oh. Or you just look around and you go, what? This game gets very fantastical and very imaginative, both in terms of the things that people find on this ship's voyage and the ways in which people can get killed on the ship's voyage. I also love this, by the way. Like I said, you have to find out how people died. Like, so in the case of that first scene, Captain shot somebody. It's like, okay, this person was shot. Shot with what? A gun, a cannon, an arrow, a gun. Okay. And they were shot by the captain. Okay. Your book full of options for how people died, somewhere between a third and half of those options are red herrings that never actually come up.
Okay.
But it's great because it sort of keeps you on your toes, and it means that, like, it you can't just sort of guess your way through. There's too many options. And also, delightfully, the game is flexible, thank God. Like, it's not like most deaths have more than one correct answer because there's more than one correct way to phrase it. Like, if somebody falls overboard, you could put in they fell overboard, but if you put in they drowned, that's also valid, as an example. So you don't really need to worry about like a classic adventure game problem is intuiting what the designer meant when they designed this, rather than intuiting how a scene like this would play out. And this game is very good at avoiding that problem. It's very good at accepting any given reasonable description of what happened as valid. To that end, this is not a story spoiler, but it is a spoiler for a hidden achievement. So plug your ears for the next 10 seconds if you care. There is an achievement for blaming every single death in the game on the captain. Because it's technically not wrong, but yeah, that's all you're getting from me. And I need to also give a very, very, very big, very honorable mention to the aesthetics of this game, because this game is inspired by the look of old Apple II era first-person adventure games. Like, we have one color with maybe 3 shades of that color if you're lucky, and we're straight up in Virtual Boy territory here. And the whole game is rendered so that at any given moment where you just hold the camera, it looks not like how one of us... Any screenshot from this game isn't going to look like those old Apple II games, but it's going to look like how you remember them looking. It's got just a little bit of grittiness to it to evoke the pixely feel, but it's actually very clear and detailed when you zoom in on things. It's a really striking, powerful aesthetic. And speaking of powerful aesthetics, I just need to give props to Lucas Pope for deciding, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do a 19th century boat game. Because
Yeah.
who else is making 19th century boat games? Nobody. Like, this is a very underexplored, like, setting and aesthetic. Like, a big British East India Company ship full of, like, crew and cargo personnel. That's not a space I've explored in video games very often, if ever. And it's really cool and nifty seeing so many parts of this game like slowly start to make sense to somebody like me who like I know people who are, big naval nerds. I say nerd with love, like people who are big naval enthusiasts who would probably be able to like point at everything and be like, oh, that's that's the Orlop deck, that's the Lazarette, that's the thingamajig, and whatchamacallit. I, as an outsider coming into this, didn't know all of that, but it's fun learning how it all works, and the game is very good at making sure that you don't miss anything critically important, because the book that you get, where you're supposed to note down all the deaths, thankfully also has a complete, like, map of the ship's blueprints, and it has, like, a glossary in the back, so if you don't know what a bosun is, you can look up what a bosun is. And the game is very good at making sure, it's very good at making sure you have all the tools you need to solve the problem without ever, like, needing to take you out of the moment or use weird, like, modern phrasing. There's no, like, press F to pay respects kind of moment here where it breaks the immersion, because it just takes its time to make sure you know everything. And it's a really, really good, fun, like, detective game. It really rewards you paying attention. There's usually a bunch of clues that can drive you to, that each in and of themselves can drive you towards the correct answer. There's not a lot of people on this ship whose names actually get said out loud at any point, because like the moment of their deaths that you visit with the memento mortem, you get sort of like the moment of that death you can explore as like a frozen snapshot. Like if anybody remembers the mannequin challenge from like a decade ago, it's sort of like if you appeared in one of those and you can sort of look around and see what happened.
Okay.
But you do hear like the sound leading up to that, so you can listen in on some conversation right beforehand, or to the sound effects going on. Very few people actually get their names said out loud, so you'll rarely hear like, they said Joey, this clearly must be Joey. But you can pick up on things of like, I think I just heard somebody like speak French. Hold on, let me check the crew log. Oh, there's only one Frenchman. I guess that must be our Frenchman. All right. Like those kinds of, the information is all there. You just got to put it together, and there's usually more than one clue for each person. I think it's very nicely structured. And I can say that with confidence because I actually played this game co-op, which is weird because this game doesn't have a co-op mode. But it's a very good game to play together. Like, I just played it while streaming it over Discord to somebody else. And, like, I was controlling the camera and the interaction. But this is a game with, like, absolutely zero time pressure. So it was fine. We could take our time. Like, there's no time pressure. There isn't even a fail state, really. Like, it's okay if you get the answers wrong. There's sort of like a little bonus chapter at the end if you do get everything right. But like, this isn't a game that in any way punishes you for being slow or getting things wrong or anything like that. It's okay to guess someone and to be wrong. You can try that again. It's fine. So we just took our time walking around the ship talking about it, and she repeatedly pointed out, like I would have an idea of who this person was because of clue A, and she, like, I would ask her for her thoughts, and she would chime in immediately with clue B, and I'd be like, all right, there was clue B, and then she mentioned clue C, and I'm like, wait, there was a clue C? What? So, like, there's a lot of densely nested information that really works, so even if you don't pick up on one thing, it's very likely you'll pick up on something else. it's gangbusters. Speaking of gangbusters, the music. Lucas Pope is one of those guys who just does everything on his own games. So this is not just like writing and coding and art and all of that. It's also music. He did all of the music, and this is an amazing soundtrack. I highly recommend you look it up. You can find it easily enough on YouTube and things like that. There's it's not sea shanties. It's like the murky, moody other side of that coin, almost. Like, it's all very nautical and old-timey, but a lot of it is moody. A lot of it is suspenseful and kind of haunting, and some of it is even like dread-inducing, because some of the ways in which these people died are, let's just say I wouldn't want to go out that way if I could help it. And the game is really, really good at putting you in the right headspace for all of that, in no small part thanks to the music. It's just really well done. It's a great game to play together with somebody else. I highly recommend doing that if you can. But even by yourself, it's very chill whilst being very engaging. And that's a rare combo. You don't see it often. Combine that with like the strong aesthetic, the unique setting, and very inventive storyline, because this is going to go a lot of places. It's very clever. It's very well done. I wouldn't call it perfect per se, but there is almost nothing else like it. And it is a really, really strong execution of a very distinct vision. Like, Lucas Pope never phones it in. Lucas Pope never, like, half-asses it. He is so good at finding games, at making games that don't play like anything else you've played before. And I really respect that, and I think this is a great example of it. I actually think I prefer this to Papers, Please. Like, Papers, Please is really good and really tight. Like, fantastic game, but I feel like this game is... It feels like it hits closer to home for him as well. I think it's actually dedicated to his father. And I had a wonderful, wonderful time with it. Like, if anything I said sounds interesting, or if you look up this game on Steam and anything in the trailer looks interesting, like I said, highly recommend just buy it. Don't get spoiled for anything. Buy it, play it, ideally with somebody else there if you can. Give it a go. It is the best time I have ever had watching 60 people die.
That's a fantastic recommendation.
Yes.
And on that note, that's going to do it for this episode of the GamePodular Unfocused podcast. I'm your host, Scott. Thank you, Seth, for joining me.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you. And we will catch up with you with the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the GamePodular Unfocused podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review on iTunes. It really helps us get noticed. You can also listen and subscribe on other podcast services such as Spotify. Make sure to check our other show, Unfocused. Be sure to join our Discord server to interact with the lively GamePodular community. Follow us on Mastodon, Blue Sky, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch and at GamePodular.com for updates, news, and other content. Links are in the show notes. If you'd like to support our shows, you can buy us a coffee or become a GamePodular Patreon. The details for both are on our website. This episode was edited by myself, and you can follow me on Blue Sky at ScottyJman. You can follow Seskra at Seskra the Spider at bsky.social, albeit at your own risk. Thanks for listening.